Hi everybody, it's Wednesday. I have a story for you, one that you haven't heard yet. No matter what, you haven't heard it. Nobody knows this story yet because the only person that witnessed it was Tammy, Yo-Yo Max 12, whom I was traveling home with from Nashville. And our flights this time coming home took us through Detroit and then Toronto. And on the Detroit leg of the trip, we didn't have seats assigned. So when we arrived in Detroit, without event, I must add, we both searched out where to go to get proper boarding passes that had assigned seats. We found our gate where the flight was going to take off, which was being staffed by a flight attendant or ticket taker, not sure which. This was Delta, by the way. And the woman, I have to say, was pretty surly, unhelpful. Tammy went to take care of it. She took my boarding pass and her own and went and asked about where we get assigned seats. And the woman vaguely said over at some green kiosk, which we found, stuck our boarding passes in it, and we were assigned seats. Little slips of paper that said what seat we were in. I was 1B, Tammy was 2D, so not sitting together. We didn't think twice about it. We sat down at the gate and waited, watching people. And along came a group of tourists that was led by a young man in a white shirt and black pants and a clipboard. He carried a clipboard. And he was talking to his group of people, and clearly they were Japanese. And I watched with interest because, as you all know, my dad was born in Japan and I have an affinity for all things Japanese. So I was watching, looking at their clothes and stuff, you know, how you do when you're watching people. And the flight was called, and we were starting to board, and Tammy and I were about 6th in line, and I was ahead of her, and here's this woman that had not really helped us with our unassigned seats, but, you know, and she was one of those officious women, you know? Anyway, I give her my passport, my boarding pass, and she says, this isn't an adequate boarding pass. You don't have an assigned seat. I said, yes, I do. And here's the slip that says I'm in 1B. She says, it's not an adequate boarding pass. It's not valid. You'll have to step aside. So I'm looking at her, and I think, okay, fine. I'll step aside. Tammy's right behind me. The same thing happens, and Tammy starts, you know, talking about how we had seats and how they were assigned, and we had that bit of information right in our hands. Woman didn't want to hear it. She's taking tickets and boarding passes from now all of the Japanese people, the 25 or so group of people going onto this plane. And she's, again, the best word is officious. And it gets down to about maybe 6 or 8 of us left. Tammy and myself and a small group of Japanese people that were waiting to go through with the ticket taking thing. And the woman says, just as the young man who was the leader and was going up the ramp says, wait, you wait right there. And he doesn't understand, not very well, and he continues, and he gets dragged back down to the counter. And the woman says, the plane needs to be assessed because of weight requirements. Everybody has carry-on bags, and they're heavy, and they need to be assessed. And the young man, with his flock of people and his clipboard, looked like he was going to go into apoplectic shock. He didn't understand what was happening because she was talking too fast. She was angry. She didn't explain to him. She was not patient one bit. And I pulled him aside and I said, explain slowly in, you know, easy English what was going on. He seemed to be a bit relaxed, but he was worried. Tammy was worried and was talking about how our tickets had been paid for months and months ago. And it was a small scene of chaos. In any case, we get our boarding passes corrected, finally. We board last. All of the Japanese people get on. Everybody's relaxed. I'm settling in my seat in 1B, right in the front, where the flight attendant is getting ready for takeoff. So she's got a whole slew of little things that she's got to do. My seat companion was an elderly, small, tiny Japanese woman who was trying to sleep. And she was sort of curled into the side of the seat with the window, and she nodded at me, but we hadn't, of course, talked. Anyway, I was watching the flight attendant go through all of her preparations, and she finally locks the door. I sort of have a little look we share a look, Tammy and I, because I could see her over my shoulder in 2D, and we get ready to go. So the flight attendant gets the speaker, the telephone speaker thing to go through the spiel about welcoming us and how we're going to take off and blah, blah, blah. And as she just starts, I see a spider sliding down its web strand right in front of me, inches from where she was, and it's coming from the ceiling. And when it gets to not quite eye height for me because I was sitting down, it was up about here. The size of the spider, by the way, was bigger, like the spider body piece was bigger than my thumbnail. That's a big spider, and those of you who know me know that I believe that the outside things should stay outside and not come inside. I don't like things like that inside. So I'm looking at it, my eyebrows are up, and the woman, the flight attendant, is just starting. She clicks the thing on, and she's clearing her throat, and she's getting all ready for this thing. And I'm like this, looking at the spider coming down, and I'm backing up because it's just like inches. It drops down, and I'm thinking, okay, when it gets down to the ground, I'll just stomp on it. It gets to my knees, and seriously, it's like this far from my knees, and my legs are spread, and I'm pulled back like this, and all of a sudden it starts climbing right back up. And the flight attendant, finally, as she's welcoming the frequent flyer Delta customers onto the airplane, she looks at me, and she's, you can see, she's thinking, what's the matter with this person? I'm thinking she's going to call the guy that's at the back of the plane with the gun. And she sees the spider because now it's above my head, and it's getting close to her shoulder height, and it's right in her face. And I'm all eyes, and I just sort of reach down. I take my shoe off, which is a sandal, and I give it to her, and I say, "Kill it!" Big loud voice. Didn't realize that I was talking so loudly. And she looks at me, and she's got the shoe, and she's backing away, and I said, "Just do it!" Tammy's looking. She jumps almost up, but she's stuck by the seatbelt. The flight attendant smashes the spider against the wall, and it drops to the ground, and you can hear it go thunk. The plane was dead silent. The flight attendant gets into the speakerphone, and she says, "Sorry about that. We had a uninvited passenger. It's dead now." I guess you had to be there. Sorry this is so long. That's it. That's all.